Hello, and welcome to Michael Grant History. We often focus on the tactical brilliance of generals and the heroism of the soldiers. The cold truth of World War II is that the war was not won by the best plan, but by the side with the best supply chain. This was a war of materiel, a brutal accounting of tanks per mile and tons per day. The nation that could produce the most, move the most, and repair the quickest ultimately determined the fate of the world. We will explore the massive industrial machine that was the arsenal of democracy, the precarious naval lifeline across the Atlantic, and the incredible post-D-Day logistical marathon that broke the back of the German military. The arsenal of democracy. The moment the United States entered the war, the conflict became an industrial fight that the Axis could never win. President Roosevelt famously pledged to turn America into the arsenal of democracy. He delivered. American factories stopped making cars and started churning out tanks, planes, and ships at a pace the world had never conceived. This industrial power was the most decisive factor of the war. The Allies used a system called Lend-Lease, shipping vast quantities of supplies from trucks and locomotives to food and aircraft to the United Kingdom, China, and, crucially, the Soviet Union. This aid kept the Allies in the fight during their darkest hours, while German forces were hindered by non-standardized equipment and a scattered industry. American manufacturing standardized production. They produced simple, reliable designs like the Liberty ship and the Jeep in staggering numbers. This production line became a relentless, silent weapon. The unsinkable lifeline, the Atlantic convoys. The bridge between that American arsenal and the fighting fronts in Europe and Africa was the North Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic was a pure logistical fight. A race between German U-boats trying to starve Britain and Allied convoys trying to keep it alive. Every ship sunk meant less fuel for Spitfires, less food for civilians, and fewer tanks for the eventual invasion. The Allies developed techniques like convoys escorted by naval vessels and air patrols to protect the vital flow of goods. The victory here wasn't a single battle, but a cumulative triumph of persistence and technology. By cracking the Enigma code, the Allies were able to plot the position of German wolf packs and reroute their vulnerable merchant ships. Securing the Atlantic shipping lanes meant that by 1944, the Allies could amass the men and materials required for Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy, which was the single greatest logistical challenge of the war. The road to Berlin. The Red Ball Express, following the D-Day landings. The Allied armies broke out of Normandy and began a rapid, sweeping advance across France. But this speed created a new problem: logistical collapse. The armies were advancing faster than their supply lines could keep up. To prevent the entire offensive from grinding to a halt, the Allies created the Red Ball Express. This was a dedicated, one-way system of military supply truck convoys that ran 24 hours a day. The name came from the red ball markers placed along the route, reserving the roads solely for supply trucks. Thousands of drivers, predominantly African-American soldiers, worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between the Normandy ports and the rapidly moving front lines. The Red Ball Express delivered over 12,000 tons of supplies a day at its peak, directly fueling General Patton's aggressive drive. Without this improvised, heroic logistical effort, the Allied push would have stalled, allowing the German forces to regroup. Building the impossible, Mulberry Harbors and Pau, the logistics teams were not just moving goods, they were building infrastructure under fire. The Allies knew that capturing major ports would be difficult, so they brought their own, the Mulberry Harbors. These were two prefabricated, artificial ports towed across the English Channel and assembled off the coast of Normandy. They were temporary but revolutionary, allowing thousands of tons of cargo to be unloaded in the crucial weeks after the invasion. Equally vital was the supply of coal, petroleum, oil, and lubricants. The Allies built Pluto Pipeline under the Oceana system of submarine pipelines laid across the channel to pump gasoline directly from England to France. This eliminated the need for thousands of tanker trucks and ships, ensuring the advance never stopped for lack of gas. Ultimately, the logistical war was a war of resources, organization, and dedication. The Allies leveraged their industrial base, secured their supply routes, and improvised revolutionary transport solutions, all of which proved impossible for the Axis to match. The lesson of World War II remains clear. Amateurs discuss tactics, but professionals study logistics. Thank you for joining Michael Grant History. If you found this deep dive into the hidden war of supply and logistics insightful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, edit and hit the notification bell for more history documentaries. Until next time, keep exploring history.